Alright, in this video, I want to crunch some numbers over here to show you how it can be confusing to calculate the numbers that we get from prophecy, the days, the years, the months, and dates, and all that, jubilees, and all this stuff. I'm going to go through some of these number crunches here to show you where it gets confusing, especially when you're not consistent. And where I'd like to start is with 1406 BC. I hope I remember that correctly, that this is when Israel came into the land. And then there's supposed to be 70 jubilees. We'll just put a J here. And I agree with some of these people, like the YouTube user Heather R. I've been saying this for a while. Jubilee is not 50 years, it's 49 years. The 50th year is the Jubilee, but it's also the start of the next Jubilee. It's the first year of the next count. So it's not 50 years, it's 49. And then you start counting on, we'll put another J here for the first year. Put a 1 up here and a Y. This is the first year of the next set of 49. So when you have 70 jubilees, what we're actually going to do here is we have 70 times 49, and that equals 3,430. Real simple, real easy. So if we take this number here and then we minus 1406, we get 2024. But we also, there's when you go from BC to AD, there's a year thing. So even though this says 2024, you would have to put a year in there for the date of switching over from BC to AD. So you would actually be here in 2025 AD. And I know people put BCE and CE or something like that now. I don't care. But anyway, so that seems pretty straightforward, right? Then when we go to Daniel chapter 12, we read about a 1290 days and a 1335 days. The 1290 days is from when the abomination, or not necessarily the abomination, but the stopping of the sacrifices happens. And then 1290 days after that, we get to the setup of the abomination desolation, which some people say is the Dome of the Rock, which was put up around 691 AD. And I'm kind of skipping over the 1290, but just bear with me. So if we take the 1335 years, because it's a day for a year, right? And then we add 691, we get to 2026. But we don't know if that's the exact date, right? So just like we were a year earlier on this one, we're just going to go a year shorter for this one, because it just to make it line up, to keep things simple here. So we got, like I was saying, the time, the earliest was 2024, the latest is 2026. We're just going to narrow it, the in-between time. In between 2024 and 2026, what do we have? 2025, right? So we're just going to focus on that just to keep things simple. We're not looking at a 3-year period just for the sake of this video, because it's going to get weirder, just to show you how complicated this can be. So there's another issue that some people brought up. I've heard Heather R. mention it. I've heard Rock Island Books mention this. and that is that in the scriptures, God doesn't use a 365-day year when it comes to prophecy. He uses 360-day years or 30-day months, as we can see an example in Revelation where it talks about a time, times, and a dividing of time is 3.5 years. Then it mentions it as 1,260 days and then 42 months. So it's letting you know that it is exactly 30-day months, 12-month years, and 360-day years, right? Because each one of those amount of time equals 3.5 years if each month is 30 days, right? So prophetically, that's what you would do, right? So things change when you do that, right? A lot of things change. Because remember when we've had 3,430 years, because that's what 70 Jubilees, right? 70 Jubilees is 3,430 years. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply this by 365, and that's how many days it is with the Gregorian calendar. We're going to leave out leap years. All right, we're not going to go crazy here. We're going to keep it simple for this video. So for a 365-day year, we have 1,200,000. Let's go back to that number. 51,950s. So 1,251,950 days. But with God, we things are simplified, right? He's just like, no, the year's 360 days. So if we do that same thing, we take the 3,430 years, and we want to know how many days that is. Well, we multiply that by 360, and that's how many prophetic days it is. So let's put that number here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty easy, right? And then 800. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we got 800. And that is a 360-day year if we have 3,430 of them. So now this is where it gets a little weird. Okay? Do we go by just years or do we go by prophetic years? Because if we're going by prophetic years, then we have to use the 360-day year, right? But that's where we get to a completely different time, right? So to keep this simple, what we'll do, we'll get clear on this, is we take that first number because it's bigger to find out the difference. So we have 1,251,950 days minus 1,234,800 days, and it's about 49. I was going to say 49 years. That's not the number I was going to say is there, but it's a difference of 17,150. So we'll put that here. That's how many days of difference it is. So if we take this, it's about 49. If we go by the 365-day years, it's a little less than 49 years. If we go by 360, it's a little over. I'll do it just to show you. So if we divide this amount of days by 365, it's just under 47 years. Just under 47 years. And I think that this number is actually off here, because the last time I did it, this was different. So let me recheck this. If we did 3,430 times 365 equals, all right, got the right number there. One more time with 360 times 3430 equals, all right, just making sure. So it's just under 47 years. So then if we go to this same number here, this is the difference. Whoops, my bad, hit the wrong number there. 17150, and then we divide that by 360. Should be just over 37. So it's actually 47, just over 47. So 47 and a half. So we're just going to use 47 because the other one was just under. This one is a bit over. So 47-year difference between these two. So we'll put the 47 right here. So that's a big difference, right? We're just going to simplify it. 47 years. And now that this is where it gets easy, right? The difference would be if we go by the 360-day year, we're going to get to a different time. And all we got to do is put the year 2025, right? Because that's how many years it's, if we use 365-day years, leap years would change all this, but just to simplify things, we're not going to do that. It'd just make this more complicated, just to show you how complicated it is without calculating leap years. So we'll just hit the minus 47, and that would bring us to the year 1978. So that would be when the Jubilees was actually done, right here. Then if we actually want to go with this one here, well, we'll take the 335 day years there, because the day is for a year, so it's 1335 years. So we got to multiply that by 360. We get 480,600 days. Then we would have to divide that by 365, and that's 1316. So then let's just go 1316. That's almost 17, so we'll go 17. 1317. It's not as many years, and then we just add that to 691 AD equals 2008. Hopefully I can fit this in. All right, so you notice that these dates are off by 30 years, is it? Yeah, off by 30 years. So you see a 30-year difference when we use the prophetic year of 360 days. So what do? Do we just go with what it says, years? And it'd been like, well, yeah, it's been 49 years. And that's where my first instinct would be. It's like, yeah, we'll just take the years because that's how many years have passed. If we go by the 360-day year prophetic year, well, then we'll get to 1978, and that is not 3,430 years. Obviously, that is short, right? So, yeah, our years are off, but they're not that off, are they? Correct me if I'm wrong. They might be off by a couple days here and there, or like with the Jewish calendar, off by a month here and there. But they always do a little thing to correct it, such as a leap year or adding a leap month. So to say that it's that far off, I would have to disagree. Because did the Jubilee thing ended in 1978? What actually happened there? I wanted to erase this little thing here. That was kind of bothering me when the mouse sticks like that. So I just wanted to give a couple examples right here of when you're doing this. It's not like it's like what are you supposed to do, right? Because if you take those times and now you apply those times with a prophetic day year count, you get to different dates, and both those dates here. Where's my cursor here? I lost track of it. There we go. Both of these, 1978 has already passed, 2008 has already passed. So nothing happened. I mean, it says blessed, the one who comes to the 1335th day or year. Well, was there some blessing in 2008? Supposed to be like Obama becoming president. If that's the case, when this Jubilee cycle thing ended, what happened in 1978? Do these things have anything to do with the end of the world, all right? Daniel 12 makes it sound like it has to do with the time of the end, right? Now, I believe the 70 Jubilees, I'm not sure if that's the time of the end, but I'm pretty sure it is. But yeah, so you see here how you do with this, right? And, some people will say use the prophetic 360-day years. Okay, then using that calculation, we don't get anywhere. We got some time that already passed, so those dates don't matter anymore. Or we don't know when we're supposed to start, right? You have to go find some new place to start so it lines up with a date that's actually meaningful, right? So it doesn't seem to apply when you do that. But then when you use a day for a year and you just go by a year, we get to about the time we're at right now, which makes sense. So what do you say? Do you think we should just do the year, or do we use the 360-day year thing? Because just right here, you see the vast difference. And then if we did the leap years, the difference would be different, because every 4 years or so, and there's calendar changes. Even if the calendar didn't change, we always use the Gregorian calendar. It's 1406 BC. Every 4 years is an extra day, so you would have to divide the whole thing up by 4 to get all the extra days that are added to it. Then the difference would be even bigger, right? Who knows how many years it is? Matter of fact, we can just mess around with that to see. So we'll take that 3,430 years. We'll divide that by 4. We get 857. So right there, it's already a couple years, because if we divide that by 365, yeah, 2.5, almost, not quite 2.5 years, but we could round up to that. So let's just say another 2.5 years added to that. So 1976, we could change that to a 6 over here, and they would be drastically different with the other date. Well, maybe not as drastic with the other one, because if we did the 1335, and then we divide that by 4 equals 333 divided by 365. It's not even quite a year. We're just going to say a year, so we'll have to just put 2009 in there. So there. And then you have to go, okay, well, there was a not Gregorian, the Julian calendar before that. What was different about that? And you have to calculate that difference into everything. Oh, and there was a period of time where they added, 10 to 15 days in October because of the change of the calendar from the Julian to Gregorian or something along those lines. So you have to add that into consideration, because if we're going to go down to the actual day, we have to calculate all that. And so you see how this can get very confusing. And I know God's not the author of confusion, and he simplifies things because he knows we're boneheads. So personally, I just say the year. I don't think about these days at all. Right? A year passes, so spring, summer, fall, winter, the season goes by, there's a year. Right? And the same thing again and again and again. The days in there, how many months, it's about that whole cycle. Right? So that's what we're calculating with the year. So I say that we just go by the year, and we're at that time, right? We're at that time where it's been 70 Jubilees. It's been 1335 since the Dome of the Rock has been established. Right now, Israel is talking about the temple being built this year. They're going to sacrifice the heifers this year, because if they don't sacrifice them this year, they're going to age out next year. So they got to do it now. Doesn't mean when they sacrifice the animals that they have to use their ashes right then and there. But if they got the ashes, then that they can do it at any time after that to start their third temple there. So they might do some kind of treaty to go do that. So we see all these things coming about, changing. I mean, it makes it look like, yeah, that's what we ought to be doing, is just looking at the year. So if we get into the day thing, I think that's just causing confusion, because when you go to it, and these prophecies, they'll say like a day for a year, and they give you these many days, like Daniel's 70th week. That in itself can change so much, because it shows you when Jesus is supposed to show up. But we'll just take a look at that to show you that you get the different dates. I already hit clear on this, so we're just going to start with the date 600 BC, but we'll write it down over here to show you. This is about it's before the time Israel went into captivity to Babylon. But we're just going to use that to simplify things, a nice round number of 600. Daniel's 70 weeks. We don't need to go to 70, because he says that 62 weeks, that's when the 62 weeks and 7 weeks, so that's 69 weeks, the Messiah is going to show up. So we multiply that by 7 is 483, and that is now obviously years, right? So if you go 430 years, this brings us down to, that's simple math, 117. So 117 BC, obviously before Jesus showed up. But I just want to show you when we use a date that the things will be different. So if we just use the years, we get to 117 BC. If we start at 600 BC, I just grabbed a year, keep it simple, okay? So, but I didn't mean to do that. If we take the 483, and then we want to go, okay, how many prophetic days is this? All right, well now 360 equals 173,880 days. So now we got to translate that into our normal calendar that we're used to using. So we got to divide that by 365, and that is 476 years. So that is a 7-year difference, just around it. So it's actually 124 BC, so it's sooner. So you have a 7-year difference, calculating the time when Jesus showed up. So what I think is we take a look at that, because that's a prophecy we know came true. When was the actual date that Israel went into Babylon, and then there was supposed to be 70 weeks determined upon his people? I'm not exactly sure. I just remember to the very day is when Jesus went into Jerusalem and they hailed him as king. So if that was using prophetic days, then that's what we use. So I might jump off here for a second, go grab some information on that, and then we'll use that as a standard. And if anybody has any objections to that, bring up your objections. But yeah, it should be just a snap for you. So bear with me. I'll be right back. Alright, back. So what we're going to do here is erase this. I wrote down those two numbers because the first dates I found was 457 BC was the start count. And then I found one that said it was 444 BC. And I was like, okay, the first date I get 2 witnesses. And let's pick a color that will stand out here. The first date that I got 2 witnesses to was 457 BC. All right, so from there, that's our starting point. What we would do is we would take 69 weeks of years. It gives us 483 years. So we would take this number minus 457, and then with the BC AD, I'm not sure if I need to change this date because there would be either something added or, yeah. We're just going to go with 26. I'm not sure if I need to add a year or remove a year because of the BC AD change when you flip over. Not sure. So we're going to take a look at that. 26 AD. And this lines up with what some people believe. It's about 3.5 years before Jesus would be crucified. Or this is supposed to be the year that he was crucified. It's actually earlier than what people were saying. You know, the earliest I really see is 30 AD. Some people put 28 AD. I've seen as late as 33, 34 AD. There's not a lot of an agreement. We know it's around that time. That's about it. So 2026 is not like far off, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people aren't going to agree with it. So that's if we just go for the years. We just look at the years. Now let's see the difference. If we take 483 and we're going to multiply that into prophetic years equals that many days. So now we're going to divide that by 365 equals 476. Then we would minus the 457. And that brings us to, we're not going to do the decimal point, about 19 AD. So we got like a 7-year difference here. So I doubt anybody believes that's when it was, especially when you look at Stellarium and you find the Star of Bethlehem. And that is believed to be shown up about, on the Stellarium, it's like between 5 and 3 BC, 5 and 2 BC, right around there. I think it stayed up there for a couple years, 2 or 3 years there. It's up in the sky. And that lines up closer to this right here, because if you add that 5 years to that, you get 31 years, which is pretty close to the time how old Jesus was when he would have been crucified, right? So this one appears to be closer, much closer than this one. But there is some people who say that the Star of Bethlehem showed up in 12 BC, which would make this, Jesus would be about 38 right here. And then you add this to the 19. Forgot how to count for a second. That's 31. So then this one looks a little closer, right? So you see, even trying to figure this out, it's still confusing. Haven't found something that's really set, where it's like, hey, should we just go by the year? Where that makes it easy, and that's probably why I'm like, yeah, let's just do the easy thing. But that doesn't mean that's what we're supposed to be doing. Do we do the 360-day count for a year, which changes things drastically? But it changes things so much that when we do these calculations, that it doesn't fit. But when we look at Revelation, it does say time times and dividing a time. So that's 3.5 years. And then it says it's 42 months, which that's 3.5 years if you have 12-month years. And then it says it's 1,260, 1,290 days. I can't remember how many, it's something like that in Revelation chapter 12. And when you divide that by the 30, you get 42 months. So if we took 42 times 30, it should give us that number. Yeah, 1260. There you go. It says it's 1260 days. And if it's telling you how many days, it's telling you how long the actual tribulation is. So then it's using a prophetic count. And if that's what we get an example of in Revelation, maybe that's what we should be going with. But if we go with that, then we have to use these dates here for our calculation. And these dates already passed. So those things really don't have any meaning to us. Unless you know something I don't, right? All we can really figure out is that these many days divided by 365 equals a little less than 3.5 years. So you see, it's not quite 3.5 years when you use the Gregorian calendar. It's a little bit shorter. So maybe a couple weeks of a difference, which would mean like a month or so of a difference. Maybe 2 months of a difference when you add all 7 years together. So, yeah, let's actually do that. Let's clear this. If we did the 1260 times 2, that's how many days would be in a prophetic 7 years. And then we divide that by 365. We get 6.9. I'm not sure how to translate that into months because we have 12 months. If it was 10 months, then that would be a month off, but we have 12 months. So it's probably a little less. So let's just say 3 weeks. Let's just, to keep it simple, 3 weeks short of 7 years if we're on the Gregorian calendar. So I don't know what people would take with that when they would apply that to prophecy. But you see how this is like confusing. So when I put all this together, I don't really have anything to like stand on here to be like, hey, this is where we should be at, and this is what we should be standing on, and this is where we can actually use this to look forward. But all I've shown here, if we do this, we look back and see that there's really nothing. And yeah, so maybe it's not correct. I'm sure some people got some things to say in the comments. At least I hope so. I don't anybody watch this video all the way through. People barely watch the other ones, and I think those ones are more informative and more entertaining. But maybe some people like numbers and they think something's going to come of this. But hopefully somebody saw this and they got something they would like to share. But anyway, thanks for supporting the channel, watching it all the way through. Please pray for me real quick that God keeps me going, keeps this ministry going, and keeps it supported. And if you want to help support, interact in the comments section, like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, share the video. And if you want and you're able to, there's ways to financially support in the info box. So, thanks for watching. Take care.